Our story begins with young Joe and Harry, who were best mates. One was sleeping over the other one's house this particular night, and it was Joe that was sleeping over at Harry's. Now, Joe had had a bit of a horrific afternoon as his parents had experienced the neighbour coming over and complaining about their dog. Now, their dog was a lovely, lovely dog. It was very friendly, but this neighbour was really just not happy with how it would bark a bit late in the day. And, he was very aggressive with the parents and said, look, if you can't sort out your dog, I'm going to ask for it to get put down. Now, Joe had overheard this and it really upset him. And Joe and Harry were about 12 years old each. And so they were grade 6 students. And Joe was very upset and he was worried that their dog might get put down, from what this neighbour had said. And Harry was just disgusted. I mean, Harry's family had their own dogs and cats and rabbits and animals that he grew up with, and he couldn't believe that another person would want to do that to an innocent dog, especially a family member of his friend Joe's family. So while Joe was telling the story and was getting a bit upset, Harry was thinking about what they could do to fix this, or what they could do to respond to this. So the conversation began. Harry said, "We don't have to put up with this, Joe. I've got an idea. You know how we've got chickens out the back? I think we can use their eggs in a way that actually teaches this neighbour of yours a lesson." Joe's like, "Oh, we don't really want to upset him anymore. He's already really angry." And Harry was instantly back with, "Well, it doesn't matter. We're not going to change his attitude. We have to tell him who's boss and he can't get away with talking and threatening your dog like that." So Harry said, "Leave it with me. Give me a few days and I'll tell you what we're going to do." So over the next few days, Harry collected a few eggs himself that his mum didn't know about and put them aside, put them in a secret spot, let them kind of age, if you would like, for a little bit longer than what you normally would. And after about 3 to 4 days, Harry turned around to Joe and said, "All right, what I want you to do, Joe, is ask your parents if you can stay over at my house again this weekend, and I'll tell you what our plan is." So Joe did this, wondering what Harry's idea was. Anyway, this weekend came along, and Harry basically said, "Look, this is what we're going to do. I've got 6 eggs. They've been sitting in the sun now for all week. So they're a little bit ripe, Joe, if you know what I'm saying. And I think we should pay your neighbours home a bit of a visit tonight. We'll sneak out, we'll take the eggs over there, and we'll teach him a lesson." Harry was really, really direct and into this. He wanted this to happen, and Joe's like, "Okay, yeah, I do. I don't want him to hurt my dog, and we're not gonna stand for this." So that night, after the boys were asked to go to bed, to go to sleep, it wasn't too late, but they decided to climb out Harry's window, and off they'd go. Now, Joe's home was only one street over, so it was a little bit of a track over the back fence to get to his house. And the boys basically took those 6 eggs in a little container and went for a bit of a trip over to Joe's house. The funny thing was that every single footstep that the boys made heading over, they could hear it so clearly because it was such a quiet night. And they started to get concerned that they might get found out. Anyway, they got over to Joe's house. They were quite nervous about doing it, but they walked down this neighbour's driveway, and they took 3 eggs each, and they hurled them at the front door, and they hurled them at the car, and they smelt those eggs as they cracked onto the car, and they thought, oh, we're going to get out of here now. So the 2 boys bolted out of the driveway, and the crazy thing was that Harry had feet of lead bricks. Basically, boom, boom, boom. If you weren't awake, Harry's running at that time of night would wake you up. But unbeknownst to the boys, it did stir up people in that home. But they took off very quickly. They were both very quick runners. Got all the way back to Harry's house. Got back in the window and back into the beds and got to go to sleep. Fantastically, they got away with it. There were stories that Joe heard his parents say that the neighbour had come over and complained about smelling these really bad smells around the front of his house, but they couldn't find the remnants. The boys weren't the greatest throws, but they had got the eggs into the bushes where they'd broken in the bushes, so the egg remnants were hidden and the smell had permeated around the front of their home. So that had really peeved off the neighbour. So the boys were very chuffed about that they'd gotten away with that. And, you know, sometimes revenge is served with chicken. I hope you enjoyed the story. We'll see you soon.